Bonjour, it's Claire. Welcome and thanks for listening to the Integrally Alive podcast, where we explore resilience and how to spark alive and go from alive-ish to alive. Today I'm with Amrit Sandhu. Hi, Amrit. Thanks for being with us today.
Such a pleasure to be here.
So Amrit is a meditation instructor, corporate trainer, personal development coach, and life coach at Mind Valley for Australia. He's a life coach and a podcaster for Inspired Evolution. And maybe less known, is also helping aspiring podcasters to begin their journey. And actually, that's how I met him. So, like it or not, he is to blame for giving me the last push to make this podcast alive. So this interview is special for me.
That's the end of the episode.
So it makes this interview a bit special because I'm so grateful. This podcast wouldn't have been online so quickly without the last push. So thank you, Amrit.
It's been such a blessing to just be part of your journey, sister. It's been so amazing watching the Integrally Alive podcast and listening to episodes as well. And it's really beautiful. Just watching you share. Like there's so much in there, and just to think that there wasn't ever a podcast that was there before we met. It's kind of crazy because your episodes are beautiful, and just the message that you have to share is so profound. So I consider it a real blessing to be a part of your journey. Yeah.
Thank you. So today we will talk about inspiration, living on purpose, health and meditation, and much more. So let's dive in. Actually, how did you come to be a coach and meditation instructor?
Oh, okay.
Like we would need 3 hours?
Okay, so to cut a very long story quite short, let's go with basically I struggled with depression for about 5 to 7 years. I remember once I got diagnosed with depression because I was struggling with it, not really knowing what was going on with me. I was just in this life funk, and I just thought everybody felt this way, but I was just desperate and helpless, and I didn't know what was wrong. I knew something was wrong. I just thought everybody had this wrong feeling inside, and everybody was just trying to do the best that they could. And then basically I ended up in the psychologist chair, and at this point the psychologist prescribed me medication. She was like, here are some antidepressant pills. And the doctor that was hosting the psychologist in their office, hosting is probably not the right word, but she offered me a mindfulness practice. So with the psychologist and the doctor, they gave me not even a mindfulness. It was a mindfulness practice I discovered after, but it was a breathing technique and prescription pills. And I remember taking my first prescription pill, and it was amazing. The euphoria was like a whole nother. I was this, and shortly after, I'd a few hours after, having done all the chores in my house, cleaned my room, done everything, I crashed off taking the medication. That was right after I took that. I was like, no, certainly not. This is no way to live. As much as this was amazing, having experienced my first pill, I refused to take this again because I could just feel that the compound effect of consistently going up and crashing. I wasn't so much into health then. I was, going to the gym a lot, but I just kind of knew in the back of something was like, this is not right. And but I remember when the lady gave me the doctor gave me and bless her soul, she has completely changed my life, this lady. But I remember when she gave me this breathing exercise, I looked at her and I was just inside. I was, to be honest, I was actually quite upset with her because I'd been with something for years, right? I was struggling with depression for 5 to 7 years. Someone gives you a 5-step breathing exercise, and you're breathing, really 5 to 7 years of all this stuff and breathing. This is really what you're gonna give me? Thanks, mate. I'm glad I got the pills, And I went home, and then I took the pill, and then it was the reverse happened. Yeah. It's oh my God, I can't take the pills. And so I was kind of in this readjustment, recalibration phase. And I remember being in a situation where my environment triggered my impression and anxiety, and I could feel everything closing in, and I was just And I didn't know what to do at the time. And I literally just pulled out my phone, and by some form of grace, I had the breathing exercise tucked into the back cover of my mobile phone. And I never thought to look at it again, but it was just there. And so I happened to be face to face with the breathing exercise.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it. I was actually going to call somebody. Like, I was going to pull out my phone and just escape. But I was looking at the breathing exercise, and I tried it. I breathed in. 1, breathed out. 2, breathed in. 3, breathed out. 4, breathed in. 5, breathed out. 4. And as I started just doing that, everything just settled. Everything, like, I started breathing, I started settling, I was totally comfortable. I started becoming really comfortable where I was at. And I was like, what just happened? Like, I was floored, you know, like just moments before, I was feeling like dense anxiety. Like, I was feeling like I was an imposter. I was in the wrong place. I was doing all the wrong things. I was like every fur on a cat's back that you were rubbing the wrong way. And then all of a sudden, like, just connecting to my breath and counting that breath just completely brought me back to now obviously it's the present moment, right? In the here and the now. Mm-hmm. But I had no language around it. So I was just completely mystified. And that basically started a journey. I left Adelaide, and I went to university in Queensland, and I started reading books on mindfulness. The first book I read was The Happiness Trap, beautiful book on mindfulness. And then from mindfulness, basically the journey then became meditation. And being Indian, I grew up, my father was always a meditator. He would meditate every morning for hours and hours and hours. Like every day he'd wake up and he'd spend time. First thing he would do was basically like make himself a cup of tea and go sit and meditate in the sun. And that was his daily thing. And then he'd go to work, you know, and he worked exorbitantly long hours, very, very hard working man. And from there I just got exposed to meditation, but I never really thought it was something for me. It was something that was for him. And he's the wisest person I've ever met, you know, and he is my teacher on so many levels, spiritual, worldly, everything. But I never really saw like the meditation being a thing that was like, you know, helping him learn so much about himself and the world and everything. And basically once mindfulness happened, I realized that my father was practicing deep meditation, and I came to meditation. And ever since then, like it's like I can't imagine what my life would be like without meditation, to be honest.
Well, there's so much in that.
And that's the short version.
Yeah. Like, it's so, you know, beginning this integrally life adventure, I hear so many stories about depression, suicide, and so on. And one thing that comes all the time, every time, is the person thinking that it's a problem with them, and there is something they're doing wrong, but everyone else is great. And it's so important what you said, that you can have depression for a long time before realizing, oh, I have depression. And a lot of people are helpless because of that. They just think, oh, it's something I have to put up with that. They're pushing through.
Yeah, and something you touched on, like what you're sharing now, is really profound, because for me personally, I'm not sure if this is the same for everybody. I can't speak for everybody. But for me personally, I remember like maybe like people get hung up on whether it's good to label things or not label things. That's a whole nother conversation. But being diagnosed with depression in itself, I found personally quite healing, because all of a sudden there was language, and it was like, oh, this is what everybody else is talking about, this whole depression thing, you know? And it was like, I'm not alone. That was like, it wasn't like, oh, I've got a label. It was like, oh, I'm not alone, you know? And the minute I realized that I wasn't alone in feeling what I felt, half of it just dissipated there. You know, it's like, it's okay. Like, other people go through it too, you know, I'm not alone in this. But yeah, it's, you know, and it's in today's society, they say 1 in 2 anxious or depressed, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, same, same, you know, and it's fascinating. It's, you know, and a lot of people, like you said, you know, they end up pretty hard on themselves in terms of, you know, like maybe I did this or something like this. And I often bring to them, you know, ask them the question, which is a very simple question, but it's quite a rabbit hole, which is, did you ever stand a chance? You know, it's I remember I used to live in the city in Melbourne, and there was this massive billboard in near the train station of this person, you know, in his shirtless, wearing his briefs, you know, and six pack, perfectly airbrushed
Mm-mm.
poster. This person that's just perfect, right? And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, I can tell you now, within like at least a 1 kilometer radius of this poster, and this is the densest part of Melbourne CBD, there is maybe 3 to 4 people that look like this.
Mm.
Like the majority of us don't look like this,
Yeah.
right? But this is what we're told, that this is what we should look like by society.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I just asked the question, like, did you ever stand a chance? Like, you know, society is, I'm not blaming, society has many positive functions. It's incredible. But when it comes to marketing and the way capitalism like works in terms of helping you be marketed things too, like you walk down a supermarket aisle and you can see all these airbrushed picture perfect faces of people that they're not even the people. They've taken photos of people and they've touched
Yeah,
them
it's
up.
all Photoshop.
Yeah, right. And it's like that's there's no humanity in that, but you're still a human inside, and you're looking at these things and you're like, I don't feel like that. Maybe I'll purchase this so I'll look like that. Your self-worth is consistently going down. How are you not going to end up depressed or anxious? Did you ever stand a chance?
Yeah, I totally with you on that. And there's something about fitting in the box. Like we are sold some kind of ideal life, and then we try to fit in that. And whether society, family, we have many inputs that push us in that direction. And many people actually never thought about really what do I want with life? What do I want to do? There is one track, and it seems to be the way, and they're going on that way. And often I hear stories about, you know, this well-known expression of climbing the wrong ladder and getting to the top and realizing, that was not what I wanted to do. I'm really successful, but
Wow. So what you're sharing is like really some of the deepest stuff in my heart that I'm so passionate to share. So thank you so much for holding space for this. If I may,
Sure.
there's a couple of rants. I'm just gonna go on really quickly. Firstly, I feel personally that when you were talking about fitting in the box, it's really interesting that you use that word fit, and it's, you know, we all use that because it's like we use the word fitness a lot as well. You know, I was trying to get fit. I was lifting weights. I was getting like, I looked really healthy on the exterior, but inside it was like so rotten. It was really interesting, you know, and I realize now when I look at, because the Inspired Evolution podcast is all about trying to help people come to their purpose, right? Find your purpose. What is it that you really are here to do? But fundamentally, I'm driven not by purpose, by health. I care about your health. I just discovered that the biggest piece to the puzzle of your health is your purpose. You can't spend 9 hours a day at a job you hate and then spend an hour in the gym and be healthy. It's just not going to work like that. You know what I mean? Like your happiness and your joy, everything is like viscerally connected to your dharma, what it is that you're doing and the way you're walking in the world. Right? So that is like a very, very clear distinction to let's establish that is fit and healthy are two different things, right? And if you really tune into the energy of fit, what does fit mean? You fit into the idea of what other people think looks good. You're just fitness. How well can you fit into that idea of what a fitness magazine or a protein shaker cover told you to be, you know? And I'm not judging those people, but for me, that's not health. You know, health is creativity, longevity, vitality. It's these things that are less measurable than just your waistline and, you know, like the scales, right? I'm not saying that it's not important to maintain a healthy weight and that sort of stuff, but vitality is a combination of your joy, how much you show present in a moment. You know, these things matter more to me now personally. So health and fitness, two very different things. And then just to continue that rabbit hole into, you know, what you shared about like corporate ladders, and just people trying to be other people. My deepest philosophy in my heart, which I've adopted, is that basically, you know, we are the universe looking in on ourselves, right? And so from that place, you're a unique perspective lens on the universe. My lens on the universe is different. Your lens on the universe is different. When we set up this podcast, I remember when we were having this conversation, it was like, isn't it fascinating that we may be inspired by similar things, but you'll send up the Integrally Alive podcast and I'll set up the Inspired Evolution podcast, and we'll end up with two very different shows, even though we're doing the same thing, which is interviewing people. Why does that happen? Because the lens that I'm afforded to look in on the universe is different to the lens that you're afforded to look in on the universe. Now, celebrate the diversity, celebrate the differences, right? But what is happening, my personal feeling, what I went through personally, I graduated top of the class, touch wood, like I did really well academically because I was fitting the cookie cutter mold of what I thought I was meant to do, until I saw that it wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go, which was like basically the CEO of a company. When I looked at the CEO, I looked at him and I was like, you don't inspire me at all. You don't inspire my evolution in any way.
Yeah.
So coming back to it, we're the universe looking in on ourselves, right? And so the universe has already created the guy with the mansion and the Ferrari. That guy's already there. The universe can experience itself through that. It doesn't need another one of that. Maybe it creates another two, another three, right? But maybe your perspective is to be the guy that surfs all day and plays the guitar, right? Maybe that's who you're meant to be. Maybe you're an author. Maybe you're not. Maybe whatever it is that is naturally you, but meanwhile, you're trying to be the guy that's got the Ferrari and the mansion. And that's because the universe is already looking in on itself in that way. That's not your role to do that. But you're trying so hard to be this guy that you're stressing yourself out, displacing yourself from your natural way of being, from who you really are, to be this guy. And that's when dis-ease sets in, because it's not easy for you to be that guy. It becomes dis-easy. That's where your health becomes compromised. And that's fundamentally why, me personally, I'm so passionate about your purpose, because I care about your health. And that's where it all ties in. I really want people to come back to their purpose, to what it is that they're here to do, so they can experience vitality like never before.
Yeah, I love the parallel you do with health and purpose. I'm totally in line with that. And it's true, it's exhausting to try to be someone else. It really is.
It's liberating. It's absolutely liberating, and a lot of like the coaching, like I guess my coaching may be unorthodox. It's me coaching, it's again, the universe. But I encourage people to get as crazy as possible, obviously caveat, like within the golden rule, which is that don't do unto others as you wouldn't want done unto yourself. But embrace your craziness, the beginning of every podcast episode I host starts with a, and it's like, that was the one thing.
I knew we would hear that on at least once on that episode. I was waiting for it.
But yeah, and so like people told me never to make that sound again, and I was just like, really? That sound? Okay, I'm going to start every podcast episode with it, and so that's like embracing your crazy, and now people have like adopted it. They're saying it back to me. I've got I deliver a room full of seminars and people are yewing back at me. It's like, what is going on? It's crazy. So yeah, embrace your crazy,
But isn't it crazy that we are so afraid of our uniqueness? We are so afraid of letting us be seen in one sense. And then when we finally do it, really, we realize that's actually why people love us. And actually why. And not only that, as me, Claire, but when I'm being me, when I'm being really who I am, deep, 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 then I give permission to others to do the same. And I've seen this over and over and over again. They not only like me, but they feel like, oh, wow, there's a possibility for me as well in that. And
one of the quotes I have written on my bathroom window. Sorry, did I cut you off? Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm sure it's going to be interesting.
There's a quote that I have written in my bathroom window, and it's a Marianne Williamson quote. And I'm going to butcher it because I can't remember the whole thing. But it goes like this. It's my greatest fear is not that I am weak. It's something like it's that I'm powerful beyond measure. It is not my darkness. It is my light that most frightens me. And when I let go and tap into, I'm paraphrasing, but when I tap into my highest light and I share from I push past all my fears and I just shine past all my fears and be vulnerable, I ultimately give permission for other people to do the same. As I'm liberated from my fear, others are liberated from their fear. You know, and this is written on my bathroom wall, and it's exactly what you're saying, and it means so much to me what you're sharing. You know, it's like just, you know, everything we do. And this is a big part of, you know, healing depression as well, is like interconnectedness. I think at the moment we're really lacking connection. But if you can just feel, you know, from a compassionate place that whatever you're doing, you're not just doing for you. You know, not from a place of ego, but just from a place of humility. You know, in I think it was Boston recently, they did I think it was 1 million people got together for 4 hours of meditation, right? And crime went down for the next month 23%. Right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you look at it and you're like, oh, this is some woo-woo hippie stuff. But this is like police officers are saying we can't attest it to anything else except that these people gathered in the center of town and they did this thing. Like, this is the only reasonable explanation, and it sounds, the head doesn't really like it, you know. It's like a non-reasonable explanation. I had you reason that out. But this is, you know, like, and again, so like just feeling that what you're doing is not just you're doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for other people as well, and just inviting more and more compassion into your life is super healing.
Yeah, it's so true. I was, actually, you know, Nicole Gibson, I was interviewing her, and we were talking about the, when you experience depression, it's all about you. You're fearful of what others might think about you. The whole filter you have, the whole glasses you look life through is about how will it be about me. But then if you reverse that and kind of, for example, help someone, go and find what you can do for someone else. It's so empowering. And all of a sudden, you stop being this little me, which is like no power and all worry. But then you become someone who can help someone, and you become part of something bigger. And you overcome a lot of your worries and fears. And it's a bit harsh to hear when you're experiencing these, oh wow, no, you know, my life is difficult and so on. It's a bit difficult to hear, like, stop thinking about you, think about bigger. But it's really liberating, actually.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's why in a lot of the like oldest religions, you know, continuously you keep coming up with this thing about service.
Yeah.
You know, it's like living a life of service. And you know, there's obviously like filling up your own cup first, so you're healthy as well, so you're not just, you know, overextending what you're giving, so that, you know, there's always a caveat to every rule. But the minute you start living a life of just serving others, you know, serving others, everything else for yourself falls into place, you know, everything else, you know. And to be honest, that's where, you know, the life coaching thing began. You know, like, I was always the guy that my friends were coming to for advice. It was just what was my, like, it was just a natural, just the blends of the universe that I was afforded, you know. Like, we were just sitting there having these conversations, helping people through their tough times, you know, helping them with positive psychology, helping them with positive philosophy. You know, there was stuff that I was just naturally curious about, that I was always researching on and implementing in my life, and it was helping others. And so that just naturally brought the groove to then, you know, go do the work further and just serving others. And before it was like just about trying to help myself. But then when I realized actually helping others was helping me, you know, and now that you can live, the more I help others, the more financially abundant I become, you know. And it's not about money, but it gives you an idea of like what energy is, because money at the end of the day is just energy, right? So the more I help others, the more I get returned financially. It's like, oh, of course, you know, the more I serve, the more I receive. The more I give, the more I receive. The more I give, the more I receive. You know, but if you're stuck in just trying to like, what can I grab for myself? How much can I receive? How much can I receive? You're not giving anything. It's very difficult to receive, because everything is in cycle. When you look at nature, everything is in cycles that way, you know. Yeah,
and you have to bear the both. If you cannot give, you cannot receive, and vice versa. Actually,
It's been a massive meditation. Actually, before I went to Estonia, my whole thing was, my intention was to receive love. And it just came in a meditation. It was like, receive love. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like, you know, it's like have fun is like something, or do what you love is something. You know, receive love is like intrinsically dependent on other people to like bestow love, you know. And then I realized what was like, where that wisdom came from. Like, obviously afterwards it made sense because I was at Mind Valley and everybody's just like, thank you. There's so much love to share. And Mind Valley, that was like, oh my God, is like, okay, this is what it means to receive love. Like, you know, and I noticed little things in that way, in that space as well. You know, like when someone thanks you, it's very difficult for me personally to sit there and just be like, oh, and just receive gratitude. You know, it's like immediately when they say thank you, it's like, oh, but thank you because for your appreciation at the very least, you know, or like everything else that, you know, like you were there, you made it happen, you co-created. But I realized that, again, talking about cycles and energy, it's like they've tried, like they've received something in their perception of things and they're wanting to give back like gratitude. And I'm not doing them the service of receiving it. I'm deflecting it and saying, thank you, you know? And it's like really learning. Anyway, that was a meditation of mind receiving. Yeah, giving and receiving is a whole thing.
No, but it's really true. I had a very good friend like this, and he was so generous. He was always giving his time, lending books and so on, but he couldn't receive. And after some time, it felt so uncomfortable, actually. So it has to, like everything in life, I believe in balance. It has to, if you give, you should be able to receive. If you receive, you should be able to give, and so on. If not, this is not, I mean, you know, there is this image of breathing. Breathing is taking air in, breathing out. If you try to do only one thing, it won't last long. You will be in trouble.
You can try. Let's see how long he lasts.
So, and I really love the quote you shared by Marianne Wilkinson. And actually, why it's I have a few answers to that, but I still wonder, why are we so afraid of being who we are? Why are we so afraid of being big and being fully the person we are? This, on the rational plane, it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, well, I think in the 21st century rational plane, it doesn't make sense at all. So again, it comes back to, did you ever stand a chance? You know, and this is where I try and give people as much space to breathe around. You know, I'm not giving them excuses, but at the same time, I'm like just inviting them to add some space and some space for self-love and self-kindness, because fundamentally, there's the reptilian part of your brain, right? Which, like, when we were back in, like, our ability to fit into a pack was like woven with our survival. If we couldn't fit into a pack, then we would not thrive. We would not survive, right? And almost to the point where this is like the poet or the romantic or something in me, like I see it as in, if I was ostracized from my pack for being different, for being like a peacock instead of being a dove, you know, then my pack would ostracize me and be like, just leave the pack. You're not part of the pack. If I fit into my pack and I tried to be a dove, even though I was a peacock, right? At least I would die surrounded by doves, and I would have that certainty that I died with love, you know? I almost think that we would rather have chosen that than to just be abandoned into the bush and be like, okay, I'll be my peacock self, but live life on my own in the fear of the unknown. There's a fear of the unknown, you know? And so I think that's quite heavily programmed into the reptilian part of our brain. And I just feel like we never really, did you ever stand a chance? You know, so that's the context that you're dealing with. So from that space, how do you then go, oh, it's okay for me to be unique and different and all this stuff? And, you know, there's so much that's going on like that. Like when you look at a lot of what society is doing, contributing, creating, what marketing plays on for some people, you know. Wow, this episode sounds like I've got a vendetta against marketing, but it's just the situation that I have. But, you know, it's like a lot of people are playing to the fears that humans have, you know. It's like you've got this fear, and, you know, how can we like, you know, support you through your fear? Because that's where problems come from. Where you feel love, like, I'm going to sound like a complete hippie, but where you've got love, you've only got solutions, right? Like where you've, like, when you first started dating someone and you felt absolute love for them, did they have any problems? No. You were just like, oh, even the stuff that was wrong, you fixed and you patched in your mind's eye because you love them.
Yeah.
Right? So love is all solutions. Fear is all problems. And that's the primordial fear that we have, you know, is like fitting in, is so intrinsically woven to our survival that we try not to stick our head up. But fundamentally, especially now, the time is ready for, and you can see it in the global shift. Just a sec. Now, with more and more people, like a big reason behind why I do the Inspired Evolution podcast is because by 2030, the stats are out, 65% of our jobs are going to be made redundant by artificial intelligence, right? So what are we going to do when we're no longer in corporations and machines doing all the crunching and putting this paperwork here and making sure this person's safe, all this sort of stuff? Machines will do it better. Like the IBM Watson can solve legal cases better for like, I think the human, he was like, I think it was 80% better than the human or something. So you've got robots doing surgery now, and the precision is better, you know? Now from that space, like, what are we going to do as human beings? And my humble opinion, you know, this is just my conviction, is that we're all going to be entrepreneurs or creatives. And to me, they're the same thing. You're going to have to find a way to make yourself useful and serve society. And that's what the Inspired Evolution is all about. It's about inspiring to evolve, to find your gifts, share your gifts, what it is that you're here to do.
Actually, let's talk about it, because you have I don't remember something I read, but you are talking about making wisdom viral. And I totally love that thing. I mean, before beginning this podcast, I'm always interested in hearing people's story there, and I found so much wisdom in that. I believe everyone has something to share through their story. And what's beautiful is often they don't even see it. And when you're mirrored to that, it's beautiful to witness oh, right, I did that. And yes, I learned that. And this can benefit others. And that's why I began also this podcast. I was like, okay, I'm hearing all these things and it's helping me. But I want to share that. I want everyone to know. So I totally believe everyone is inspiring. And I actually love what you're doing to your podcast. So let's talk about this, making wisdom viral.
So this, the actual phrase "making wisdom go viral" is something that I adopted from Jay Shetty.
Okay.
He coined that phrase, "making wisdom go viral." And I remember when Jay was a massive inspiration of mine. I remember when I first saw his video, he was quoting philosophers, and what he was doing, I was just like, oh my God, that's all the stuff I'm passionate about. That's all the stuff I'm always talking about, like touch wood from a humble place. But this guy's like created something where other people can receive it. You know, that's crazy. Like, how did that? And then I started watching how many people were engaged with this stuff. And I was like, man, like everybody must be feeling how I feel inside, you know, like there's this thirst for wisdom. And for me, I feel like 2018 is just like the bee's knees. You know, we have lots of global issues, but we also have a massive amount of community coming together to resolve those issues. And so for me, connection is like one of my highest values. And so whenever connection shows up, I get excited, you know? And so in terms of also connection of ideas and philosophies, and like now in 2018 here, I'll give you an example. So I wake up in the morning, I meditate like an Indian person, right? So that's the practice that I do. Right. And then at the end of my meditation, I do this meditation called the 6-phase meditation by a Malaysian guy. Right. Okay. And then I do some light stretching and I do some Qigong work, which is from China, from Tibet. Right. And then I make medicinal mushrooms, right, from Tibet in my house. I make a tonic, like a herbal tonic. And then I practice some light yoga, again, from India. Right. And then I play a drum, which is basically from South America. Right. And then I play my handpan, which was invented in Switzerland. And then I've got a Brazilian guitar, right? And so like all these cultures and all these deep, like music is a deep thing of its own, meditation a deep thing of its own, herbalism a deep thing of its own. Then I wake up and I work on my computer, made in the States. I live in Australia, you know, so like, and now I'm interfacing with all these cultures, all these different things. But fundamentally what I personally felt was that now in 2018 we can see that all the ancient cultures were all saying the same thing. You know, it's like your connection to nature, life, and just like all the messages about life, what spirituality boils down to, like being a good human being, all these sort of things. Like, yes, they've got different packagings, but inside, like the fundamentals, the core fundamentals, more or less are the same, in my humble opinion. I feel like human interpretations of things, of course, vary. But deep down inside, I feel like the wisdom from all the different cultures, there are many congruent themes. If you choose to look at the similarities, you'll find plenty. And so for me, that is what embodies wisdom. And for me, wisdom really started again with my father. He was, we were, even as a young kid, I was maybe young, like 4 or 5. He's talking to me about, like, he's making me contemplate, or he enjoyed having me contemplate about, like, a space beyond space, time beyond time. And I'm like, what does that even, like, how do you even, like, what does that mean, And he's like, just contemplate about time beyond time. And like, your brain would short circuit. It's like, this is a mystical thing. I don't know what you're talking about, but this is what it's like growing up in an Indian household with spiritual, touch wood. So there was always this curiosity that was impregnated really early on, thanks to my father. And now, like, that curiosity has bloomed and continues to, like, humility is the key. It's the virtue of everything, 2 things I got from my father: humor and humility. These things will guide you through everything, And so with humility continually comes more and more wisdom. As long as you humble yourself, you will find more and more things to learn.
Yeah, it's about staying curious, right? I love the a saying they have in Japan, which is beginner's mind, doing everything as it was the first time you're doing. When you see kids and they discover life, like, wow, there is some kind of excitement and this curiosity, but in a very innocent way of, I'm doing that and I don't know at all what I'm doing, and let's see how it will turn out, right?
I've totally, I've been meditating on this quite a bit with curiosity as well. And it comes back for me, again, this is my conviction, but, being the universe looking in on ourselves, why is the universe looking in on itself? There's like a natural, innate sense of curiosity. Curiosity is like impregnated into the fabric of everything inherently. And so that's why curiosity feels so good, but and this is where a lot of the work that I do, a lot of people have not turned their curiosity off, but they've just blunted it, again and again. They were curious about something, and it's like, no, I've got to make sure I'm good at work. It's like, oh, I really love the way that guy plays the guitar. It's like, oh, I've got to go be good at work. I really love the way that person draws. No, I've got to go be good at work, so you stunt your creativity. Again and again. And so your curiosity, can't express itself. But curiosity is so, so, so vital. And to the point where, when we talk about finding purpose, finding meaning, a lot of the times most of my breakthroughs happen with just going, okay, tell me what's in your space at home. Open up your Kindle, show me what books you've been reading, open up your YouTube. What have you been watching? And it'll always be something. There's a consistent theme. You can see it. It's in your space. Like, if I look in my house now, like, there's books. Yeah. There's an instrument right there. There's instruments over there. Yeah. So there's music and there's music and there's books. So I love to read. I love to receive, like, and to read and to think about ideas. And I love to make music, So you can't really fake that, because your space is your personal space. And when you go through my phone, it's like the same thing. It's like you keep showing up. Your curiosity, despite you trying so hard to be someone you're not, is fundamentally permeating everything you're doing anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's the universe's innate nature. You are meant to be looking at yourself, but you're just trying to patch this other person onto you and be like, I'm not this curious guy, I'm not into this and I'm not into that. But again, the blessing is that by 2030, 65% of us are not going to have jobs. So you're going to have to go explore your curiosity, whether you like it or not. On my humble, the universe is guiding us that way. So what are you going to do,
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, every time we stop wondering, I love actually the English phrase, I wonder, and the double meaning that there is in that,
Yeah.
every time you stop asking, well, why not? It's what we were referring in the first place, like all these rules we have around ourselves, all these rules that others decided, and we don't even question, because it's like that. And the moment we start asking, well, basically asking any question, being curious again, then becomes more and more possibilities. But I love what you were sharing, because so many people just they kind of freak out when you talk about purpose, for example, and they're like, I don't know, it seems so big, like your life missions and something like that. And it's like, I don't know, I'm just a regular guy, and so I love the way you wave it into very mundane things, like look around you, what's there, this is your purpose, this is what you want to do.
And and you're right, it does sound quite heavy, and it can be a lot to chew and a lot to take on when you start thinking about, because a lot of people, when they think about purpose, they associate that with destiny or legacy, or these really deep things, but purpose, and it is deep. Like when you look at purpose, basically what you're asking is why.
Yeah.
And why is a really deep question. What is really easy? What am I going to eat? What am I going to do next? What is very easy. It's very like out here. It's just like, yeah, what am I going to do there? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do that? No worries. How is a little bit deeper, how is a little bit like, oh, okay, how am I going to do that? Or, it's like, okay, now I've got to, like, strategy comes into it. But why? Woo!
Yeah.
Woo! That's all the way in there. That's like, that is as deep as it gets. And
no, come on, go on.
So for me, it's, at some point, I feel like, and this is my own journey, like the depression takes you to a point where, I guess there's no other way of putting it. Depression for me, and I know a lot of people are going through depression, and actually I firmly believe this, is that depression is a blanket term which is used to diagnose many different things, which is absolutely incorrect,
Yes.
Because, like, if you lost a loved one and you're going through depression, I don't think you can call that depression. You're meant to feel something. You lost someone, right? You're going through something. I'm not negating what you're going through, but there should be a different term for all the different things that people experience, rather than just going depression, right? So there's a whole conversation to have around that, but
I love that conversation. Because actually that's something I would like to change. The way we see depression is totally wrong for me, and often it's even like it's a black and white kind of thing. So, oh, I am fine, or I am depressed, or and it's really. Just yesterday I had this conversation. A person was asking me what I was doing, and I was telling I was helping people with depression and suicide and trauma, and he was like, "Oh, is that not dangerous?" I was like, well, it's not like I'm going to be depressed if I talk to someone who's depressed. And we have so many misconceptions about that. And the whole way we see mental health is totally wrong for me. Just the fact that we call it mental health. Well, it's health. Mental and physical, and they go together. We are separating things that are not separated. Like we come back to connection that you were mentioning before, and I totally agree with you. We miss that connection to ourselves, to nature, to the world, to everything. So for me, depression it's a spectrum, and it's killing a part of you inside of you. And the more parts of you kill, then the more depressed you become. And I love what you were saying about, yes, if someone dies in my family or my friends, so I'm going to be sad. Hopefully I'm going to feel bad. And that is normal. But our society really forgot how to deal with pain. And we just want to push it away and, be that positive, fully living kind of person. And this is making harm, actually. This is harming people, because I strongly believe, and I see it in my clients, that this is delaying the moment where people feel okay with sharing what's happening and saying, look, I'm struggling.
So this ties in exactly to what I was sharing before, so this perfectly segued into, and so this was my direct experience, is that for me personally, depression is simply, and this is again, please excuse me if I'm, if this doesn't resonate with you, we're using the word simply, but for me, my experience was simply the lack of expression or authentic expression.
Yeah.
So depression is like depress, and express is to push out. So depress is pull in, and expression is push out. So when you're expressing, you're expressing your creativity. The creativity helps you express. That is like, they're the same thing, expression and creativity. Right? And so from there, when you're doing expression and creativity, then, why are you being creative? Like what, the why automatically starts coming in at that point.
Yeah.
And that's where my depression took me. It was like, okay, I'm not expressing. Why? What, and then what will I express? And all that comes from your why.
Yeah. And actually, I would like to talk about something you're doing, which I found great and wonderful, which is bringing meditation on construction sites. And I mean, the first place you think about when you think about the meditation is not a construction site. So how did it all begin, and what's your experience around that?
Awesome. Again, as with everything, there's a long story and a short story. But the short-ish story would be that I basically, I became, through my mental health challenges, became a meditator, and it completely, restored balance for me. And then I was a structural engineer. And I became, as a structural engineer, I became a project manager, and I was just managing the development of high-rise buildings. So that's what we basically did for years, just helping construct towers that were 40 stories or higher, basically, in Melbourne CBD. And as I was doing this more and more, there was this weird sort of because fundamentally, as a meditator, you start realizing the interconnectedness of everything, and then you start questioning certain things. Because as an engineer, and you'll find this, I've had a few conversations like this recently, there's a lot of engineers on the personal development path. And the question is, why are so many engineers drawn to this? And it's because naturally, as a good engineer, touch wood, what you ideally do initially is de-engineer what someone else has built. You look at it and you break it down into its fundamental building bits, and you go, okay, this is how we built it up. Cool, I can build something similar now. Yeah? But engineers naturally will do that over time with society. They'll look at society and they'll go, this is how it was built up, deconstruct it. Ooh, okay. We just all decided that $1 was $1, we all just decided on a unit, and then it was like, that's okay, and then the bank gives me a loan, and it's just like, okay, but where did the dollars come from? So we'll deconstruct, the engineering mind will deconstruct these things and try and think about where it all reached, and just go, wait a minute, what? So it is quite interesting. So being the engineer, I started thinking about where all the resources for all the buildings that we were constructing were coming from. And the bottom line of it was they were coming out of the earth, and I was literally just displacing resources and minerals from the earth and erecting them in the city, which wouldn't have been an issue if people were actually living in the houses we were building. But the reality of the situation was that only 50 to 60% of the spaces we would build would sell for people to live in. Yeah. The other ones would be purely for investment, And so basically I was extracting minerals and resources and all this stuff from the earth and just pumping them into the built environment. And just so people can park their money, which is a concept somewhere, And the thing that really rubbed me up, and again, this took me some learning, but now I realize connection is my highest value. I was good at my job because I could connect with people. And as a manager, that's kind of what you got to do, project manager, right? So you're helping, just connecting with people, making all the dots happen, making everybody get everything done. But one aspect of the job is that basically you've got deadlines, you've got timelines, you've got finance restrictions, and you've got to fit humans into those timelines. So basically you're dehumanizing people with the way I saw it, by making them into spreadsheets,
Yeah.
just forcing and squeezing and pushing people, companies, individuals into spreadsheets to meet deadlines to get a bonus so that you finish earlier than you intended to, just by, you know, squeezing the life out of human beings. And
Yeah.
I was watching this, and, you know, it's I can't say, like, you know, construction is a terrible industry. It is an industry with lots of challenges in it, for sure. Just the fact that here in Australia, here in Victoria, Australia, we work 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and you're expected to do that 6 days of the week.
6 days. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and again, you know, it sounds like, oh, that must have been really hard, but just to caveat, like, if it hadn't have been if I hadn't been working in construction, and I was doing a 9 to 5, I'm pretty certain I could have easily made the 9 to 5 work all the way up until my midlife crisis. You know, but because it was like taxing so much of my energy, and there's so much of it, and I could see the effect it was having on all the people that were in the industry.
Yeah.
I got a lot of that thing that people get from the 9 to 5 grind. I got ground up a lot quicker, a lot faster. And I started realizing that this is not sustainable. And so I started asking some really deep questions. And from there, basically, I didn't know what the solution was, but I started the Inspired Evolution podcast. And on the back of that, people started asking me, you know, where is this going? And I, you know, to be honest, I was just inspired to evolve into living a life of a creative or an entrepreneur. And I didn't even.
You were still working in the construction environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so fundamentally, what was happening at the time was I was trying to, and so this is, again, just an insight for listeners. I'm perhaps passionate about setting up a podcast, and this is why I'm so passionate about helping people such as yourself set up a podcast. For me, a podcast is, you know, it's not about creating audio content. A lot of people are like, I want to create audio content so I can set myself up as an expert and people will come to me. You know, if that's your vibe, then by all means, you're totally entitled to that. Please, you know, viva. But the way I approached podcasting was more, okay, really humbly, I'm in this job and I get paid really well, but I'm not, like, there is more meaning to life. I just know there is, you know, and I can see there's people out there that are living that meaningful life, but how do I become one of them? You know, like, I want to live that life. And then again, like I said, the CEO at my job did not inspire me. And so I just decided that, you know, through the podcasting, hopefully I'd interview maybe 200, 300 people. And I would learn the best from the people that inspired me the most about how to best approach this and go do this. The funny thing was I lasted about 15 episodes because I realized to be creative or an entrepreneur, it was all about basically like resilience, trust in the universe, just believing in yourself, courage. So, like, all these things are not things that you can learn in a manual. It's things you have to learn by taking the action, you know?
Yeah.
And so fundamentally, when I did this, I wanted to, like, I didn't realize this at the time. I just did what I needed to do. But in hindsight, and this is why I like what I support people like yourself through now, is like, create a movement, you know, and don't create content, you know, just create a movement. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? You know, and like, what is your curiosity naturally calling for? And who are the people that can help you get there? And don't just sit down and call them and get them to be your mentor. Actually record the conversations you have with them, right? Record the conversations you have with them, share them through podcasting. And, you know, your whole life, like, my whole life has changed. My whole life has changed. It's completely different. And it's only been 12 months. 12 months ago, I started a podcast, and now, I run around not just construction companies now, but also IT companies. Very different sector, very more white collar, less blue collar. And so different environment, but yeah, just mindfulness work on construction sites. So for me, it was great because I really felt the value that I could bring as well, to the construction site. It's work that I love doing, because I'm basically connecting with the people, you know, fundamentally, and we're guiding, you know, rooms of people, like, through meditations, twice a week, you know, and it's really profound, and just the shifts and the conversations you get to have.
Yeah.
And again, you know, especially in Australia, we have this culture where everybody thinks that Australians are a bit rough around the edges, and then when you think about construction, that's perpetuated further. You know, it's like rough around the edges, squared. But the truth of the matter is, like, construction workers are just human beings too, you know, like, and if anything, because of the expectations, where they've got no one to talk to, you know. So the minute a guy rocks up and he's like, let's meditate, they're just like, okay, and they'll meditate a couple of times, and then, you know, we start going into much deeper seated issues, like I've got anger issues, or I've got this issue, and I've got this, and I don't even have the time in my life to resolve it, to show up the way that I want to, you know. And so that opened up just through service, you know, just having to help people through their anger issues and stuff like that. That just birthed so much, like life coaching stuff. And so that's kind of where all this has been channeling to and from. And now this is what I do. And it's an absolute blessing. I get to connect with people again and again, which again is my highest value. So you know that, touch wood, I'm on purpose. And you know, it's bringing people back to themselves, which fundamentally is an amazing gift, because I couldn't think of anything more rewarding.
Yeah, well, there's so much in what you share. We could do a whole other podcast on just digging on what you just shared. But I have a few things. You made me think about someone I met, and this guy was a builder. And we kind of project, you know, we project our view on, okay, this guy is a builder, so he's not very spiritual and so on. And this person, we began to talk, and for whatever reason, he felt that I could listen to him without judging. So he shared that kind of out of the blue. I was like, oh, okay, why now? He shared the time when he woke up one night and he saw the Virgin, like the Madonna, in his room. And his wife was there, and she was like, I never heard about that. She was surprised. And this guy felt like he had to say first, like a disclaimer, oh, you know, I'm not very spiritual, I don't believe in things. But that night, I saw this, and I know what I saw, and it was real. And I heard this through the lines of what you were sharing. When you're just there with someone and bringing, or whatever the way we do it, but facilitating the connection between that person and one part of them that maybe they don't feel allowed to express usually. It's so healing. I was seeing him really, like, I could see his face was kind of relieved to say that. Maybe he had, I mean, that was years ago, so he had kept this for himself for years and years. I was the only person he said it in this whole year. He shared that afterwards, like, this is the first time I'm talking about this. Even his wife didn't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, these things, like, at the end of the day, you know, like, it's how long do people have to carry these things for, you know?
Yeah.
And that's, like, people think, oh, life coach, you know, it's about performance, it's about this, it's about that. To be honest, like, the podcasting has helped me become a really good life coach, because 90% of my job is listening.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I'm here to listen, you know, and that's pretty, and people find that absurd when I say that to them. It's like, oh, you get paid to listen. And it's like, when was the last time you listened to somebody? Nobody listens to anybody. This is what society has gotten to. Don't judge me. This is what society's at. You know? I get paid to listen. It's crazy, but this is where it's at. But yeah, you know, people are walking around carrying so much stuff.
Yeah.
Today, like, emotion is just energy in motion, and you know, when you're holding an emotion, the energy is stuck, and man, that is just, you know, there is so much in there that if you could just voice it, if you could just share it, you know, it already starts to come apart and move, and you give space for something new, something beautiful to grow in there, you know. But people don't have that opportunity. Like you said, he couldn't even share it with his wife. But yeah, you know, where you started the point was like, you know, construction workers, and yeah, you know, like, one of my biggest mentors, his name's Grant, and he lives here in Melbourne. He's got his own construction company, and he's fascinating. So he's amazing. He is super, super spiritual and runs a construction company, has a family of 5 kids. You know, it's just, everything is just, you know, you go see him and he's just a wild energy. He's amazing. He's an absolute inspiration. And he was telling me about how, like, one time on his construction site, there was this guy that was digging a hole, and he'd been digging a hole for like 2-3 hours, right? And this guy leant over and spat in his hole. Right? And then the guy that was digging the hole went up to Grant and said he's leaving early for the day. And then Grant goes, "Why are you leaving? We got deadlines, mate. You can't leave." And he's like, "I just spent half a day putting good energy in that hole, and then Ralph just spat in it."
Oh God.
So, you know, you can't always judge a book by its cover, because you might think they're just construction workers, but no, it's, you know, like, yeah, you know, there's good vibes everywhere, you know, and that's kind of been my agenda as well, you know, is just, you know, really having positive conversations on construction sites as well, you know, like, and it's such a blessing just when you start having these conversations around, like, just a guided meditation or mindfulness practices, just helping them be more mindful of, you know, just their environment, also their words, their language, the program language can be in their lives, just what the workplace becomes.
Yeah.
And it's not me, you know, it's just the practice of mindfulness, the blessing that it is.
Yeah.
People were just, you know, the relationships are better. There's less sick days. People enjoy going to work. People feel valued by each other. People are much more open and honest communicators. It's insane. Like, it literally, for me, it's like a silver bullet. Obviously, I am a hammer, so everything looks like a nail. But meditation, like, you know, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible what it can do. And these people, like, and people always ask me, are people receptive to it? You know, are people receptive to it? And I think, to be honest, that was the magic source for me personally, coming into a construction site, because I'd been there for years and years and years.
Yeah.
You know, for 5-7 years, I'd been on construction sites. And so rocking up, you know, I'm dressed just like they are. I speak the same way they speak. You know, I can communicate to them in their own language. But when we go into a meditation, I'll even guide them through, you know, like, I don't have to be the meditation teacher that doesn't swear during his meditations, you know, like, I will swear my way through a meditation if that's what they need to be able to surrender into their process. Yeah. And I feel really humbled that I have the opportunity to be that guy. I'm not the meditation guy that's like, okay, closing down your eye, letting go, not judging that person, but I'm the guy like, all right, guys, let's sit around in a circle, close down your eyes, and just see, you know, how you're feeling emotionally. Some days you're fucked, some days you're feeling better, you know, and it's relatable, and they really value that. And I feel really humbled to be of service in such a way, you know. And so, yeah, it's an absolute gift and a blessing and again, you know, that's the inspired evolution, right? So, again, I don't just do it for myself. I try and find what it is that's my creativity that I can share with people, so that other people are inspired to find their own unique offerings for the world as well, so that they can do it too. So we're not doing this all by ourselves.
Yeah, I love what you share about your way. I would love actually to listen to one of your meditations.
They're not all full of swear words. Just I've got like, the IT company gets different kind of meditation.
Okay. But I love the way you present it. I deeply believe that we always have to meet people where they are, and not try to, I'm this very spiritual person because I believe sometimes spirituality can be really arrogant. And really arrogant, like, I'm wearing white and I'm having this incense, and we become this kind of archetype of nothing, actually, just an idea of what spirituality should be. But spirituality is casual. I mean, I really believe that it's important to, like, we can bring it back to daily life. And it was before. I mean, you mentioned ancient tradition before, and not so long ago, everything was spiritual, everything. And if you travel, like I was with Maoris in New Zealand, for example, everything they do, there is spirituality behind. There is a spiritual reason behind. But it's just embedded in their daily life. It's the way they live. So I really, really appreciate the way you work, actually.
Thank you so much for your blessings. Yeah, it's yeah, and I totally agree with you. We are. I totally believe that we're spiritual beings having a human
Yeah.
experience. And I understand that it's not for everybody. And then that's another thing as well. When you start saying meditation, people start immediately associating it with a religious practice.
Yeah.
And I think that's why mindfulness is really healthy, because it does exactly what you just shared. It meets people where they're at.
Mm.
And so, at the end of the day, it's not like your breath doesn't care if you're Christian, it's like the sun doesn't care if you're Christian, Islamic. It gives you life. It breathes sun energy onto you all the time. So for me, spirituality, a lot has come back to, fundamentally, how am I showing up with, and this is going to sound very pagan, but this is the reason it is that way, like earth, fire, wind, and water.
Yeah.
How is my breathing? Am I meditating? Am I breathing in good air? Like, is my relationship with my breath good? Am I drinking good, clean water? Am I drinking heaps of soft drinks, or am I drinking water? Earth, what is my food like? Am I eating good, nourishing, organic, like healthy food, trying to do the best I can with the decisions that I have? And fire, am I getting good sunlight? And for me, that's just a way of being. That's a lifestyle. But like you said, that's living, and that's spiritual for me anyway.
Yeah.
So just making my life like tick with all of these things and holding awareness for all these things makes sure that I feel like I'm living a spiritually connected life. And that's where that's at for me. But meeting people where they're at, there's an interesting thing in that, because I've interviewed someone named Chris Ventura, and he's really interesting. He loves to surf. Man, does he love to surf, and he's an entrepreneur. And he basically has this idea, which I've come to adopt, which is there are two types of activists, right? There are those that basically live on the mountain and just pray every day, and that's what they're going to do. Or there are those that just surf every day, and that's just what they're going to do. And he believes that those people are useful to society, because they're basically holding what he calls a frequency. They're holding an energy. They're like, this is possible for humanity. Like, we can just surf all day, become a surf instructor and just surf all day. Then he believes there are those people that surf all day and love to surf all day, but then also surf when they can, but then also like bring that energy back to like mainstream and say, hey, look, like, I really care about surfing, but we really don't need to pollute the earth with plastics. So I'm going to set up a business that is like, alternative solutions to plastics, so, and that's kind of his work. So like, there's these people that are doing like the work of what he calls it the bridge. And I kind of feel like that's, like meeting people where they're at is an interesting concept, because on some level, sure, there are some people that need to hold the energy and the frequency that they hold. But on another level, it's like, there is the work of other people that are bridging the work. And I think most people like yourself and myself are trying our best to bridge, and trying to bring wisdom and make it, spread further, and bring meditation and make it spread further into environments, and just, like doing things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying very much this conversation. It's so packed, and I would have still many, many questions, but my mentor said you have to keep your podcast to for a certain time. So that's what we will do. Is there anything we left out?
He also told you can always do a part 2. So there's always.
I was separately thinking about that.
It'd be an absolute blessing to come on and meet again. And yeah, it's really been lots of fun. Did you have any last questions?
Yeah, I have 2 last questions. Is there anything we left out that you would really want to say today?
Yeah, so fundamentally, I think actually no, which is fascinating. So I was just about to, before I asked you for the questions, I was just going to thank you for the space that you've held. It's been a really fun conversation. I've really felt like you've let me be myself and share so openly and so freely. And it really, I can't tell you how much it means to me to just have the opportunity to speak, but then also just feel like, this is the opportunity, this is the experience that everybody gets that connects to you. It's such a blessing. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, Claire. Because fundamentally, my message is quite simple. It's basically, health and purpose are the same thing. There's no, am I healthy or am I on purpose? No, they're actually the same thing. And the example I give everybody, we've touched on this a lot in the podcast already, is basically that, like Beyonce, everybody knows who Beyonce is. She goes 3 nights, right, without sleeping. All she does is eat, no eat, no sleep. She just drinks water, right, for 3 days straight when she's filming her music videos.
Okay.
So every time she releases an album, she does all her music videos back to back to back to back to back. Now, where did someone get that energy? Like if you watch Beyonce dance, she's an entertainer. She dances, right? So there's a lot of high energy dancing that goes into someone producing that content. So how does someone show up for 3 days straight without food, without sleep, to continually do this? That's been an early fascination of mine. Because if I rocked up to Beyonce and said, "Hey, here's a shovel. Can you please go dig a hole for the next 3 hours?" First of all, she'd look at me like, "Amrit, who are you?" And I'd be like, "Okay, no, seriously, this is an experiment. Go do it." And if she's game, she's Beyonce, she's hardworking, maybe she'll dig it for 3 hours. But after about 6 hours, she's gonna be like, "No, this is not what I'm meant to do."
Yeah.
Right. So that for me brings into crisp focus is like, where does the energy come from when you don't get sleep, you don't get food, you can do what you're meant to be doing and just drink water, and you can be fine, and you can do your work really, really, really well. So for me, that becomes esoteric straight away. For me, that's my humble opinion. It's out there, but it's like, this is, the energy is there when you're doing what you're meant to be doing. You experience health, you experience vitality when you're on purpose.
Yeah.
And so that's my message. That's as succinctly as I can put it in a metaphor. So it's really important to find your health so you can experience the highest levels of health and vitality, so you can find your purpose, please. Yeah. And again, we've touched on it, you finding your purpose. Yeah. Look in your space, what's around you, what do you naturally look up, what are you naturally curious about, and just, there's so many ways to explore this further, meet like-minded people, do certain things like that. And there's so much available.
The last ritual question is, what makes you feel alive?
Connection's a pretty big one. Connecting with other people definitely is a massive one for me. So connection is definitely one of my highest values. But as I say that, I think love is definitely, I have to say love as well. So I guess for me, again, spirituality is actually unity, right? Like when we start seeing everything as one. So I kind of see love as being the biggest umbrella. And then underneath the love umbrella is kind of like the unity umbrella, where everybody comes together to love. And then in order to facilitate all that unity, you need to have connection at a really elemental level. And so that's kind of what makes me feel alive, to be honest. The more I can connect, the more I feel at one with others, the more, love that I experience, touch wood, it's that lets me know that I'm here and I'm doing something or the other. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can totally relate to that. Connection is one of my highest values. So, yep. Okay. Well, where can listeners find you?
Awesome. So basically, Facebook's a really great place to find everything. At the moment, we've been super active building up the Inspired Evolution Facebook page. So you can find everything there. Even if you direct message the Inspired Evolution Facebook page, those messages come directly to me. So that's www.facebook.com/inspired, INSPIRED, Inspired Evo. So EVO. Not the full word evolution, nice and short for you. So Inspired Evo. You can find Inspired Evolution there and everything that's coming up. And if you send us a personal message there, we can talk about anything, which one or the other. There is a website, but that's the best place, Facebook.
Okay, well, Amrit, that's been a blessing. That's been really a really nice conversation. I really enjoyed it. And it will be, it's packed with insights and good stuff. So I'm really happy with this conversation. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks for what you're doing. You're doing an amazing work. I am to everything you're doing, bringing mindfulness, helping podcasters. I love what you share about podcasts. I mean, really, thank you. A big, big thank you to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's I learning to receive. So yeah. Thank you so much. Like really, Claire. Even like just being able to, to be able to share. And I can't tell. Like there's just this feeling I can't really put words to, but just being able to be a guest on your show, like yeah, I'm not a father. I don't know what it means to be like a proud father. I'm not saying like the Inspired Evolution is the daddy of your show is weird, but it like there's some sort of weird feeling inside of just the level of openness and freedom in a conversation that you've afforded here. That is really like, is something that I have continually have the ambition to try and just keep it as free flowing and open, as deep as possible. And just to experience that firsthand is, man, like I'm almost emotional. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And yeah, I'm really, really grateful to be part of your journey. And thank you so much for having me today, just for feeling me out and just having the opportunity to share, what's on my heart. And just, always wishing you like all the best with everything that's coming up, and if there's any more I can help you with, always here for you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, thanks you everyone for listening. So if you like what you hear, leave a comment on the blog, subscribe to the podcast, and till next time. Until then, spark a life and be integrally alive. Bye.